Well, one thing hasn't changed, even though I think we, people in general, fans, we take the NCAA tournament for granted. But when you sit there and see your name come up and you start watching film on your opponent, you don't take anything for granted. The beauty of being here a while and going through a lot of tournaments is you've kind of had success different ways as a 1, 3, 5, 7 seed, and you've had failures in the same ways as a 1, 3, 5, and 7 seed. So I've kind of understand what it takes. I think that's my advantage with my team. It's convincing them that they got to trust what I tell them during this whole period, because it's an exciting time you get to the tournament. Best thing about the tournament is, of course, the first game's the hardest to win, and it's always that way in any tournament. And but if you can get out of the first game and then you can get out of the weekend, then everybody, it's just a coin flip. I think there's very few times we played in one with North Carolina that one team is so much superior to the rest that you can't look at. You can dream about having a chance. I don't know if you really have one. And but this year, I think, evident by listening to all the talking heads and listening to you guys and listening to myself and listening to other coaches, it is about as wide open as it's been. In saying that, I told you last night that we're almost more worried about ourselves than anybody else, because getting some consistency and maintaining that is going to be a very big key for us. We need to worry about Davidson, because they bring some issues that we haven't dealt with. They're one of the top 10 or 5 teams in the country shooting the three-point shot, field goal percentage. They move the ball very well, a little bit like Iowa. They run a lot of motion, and so it's not as easy to scout or easy to prepare for players. The never relax statement that I put on the board more than a few times during the year will be in full bloom this game, because if you relax, you're going to get back cut, you're going to get curl cut. It's a very, very, very good. It's a talented team. They've got some experience. They've got some seniors. Got the player of the year in the league in Brockovic. They've got 4 guys in double figures. They got 4 guys shooting above 40% from the 3. And of course, Foster brings, not only is he playing well, but he'll bring a lot of knowledge about Michigan State. And I think that's reasons for me to worry. They got a 6'7" kid named Lee, who is supposedly one of the most talented Korean players to ever play, according to people I talked to, and he's a top 10 pick in the Atlantic. And as I said, they shoot it well, and they turn it over a few times. They're one of the leaders in that. It's under 10. And I think that's been Bob's MO since he's gotten there, which has been many, 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 many years. So he's got experience. Some of his players got experience. I'd say probably more than we have in that respect. And yet, I'm excited. Go down to Greensboro. It's in our time zone. Would I rather be in Indy or Milwaukee? Well, of course, anybody would. But it's in our time zone, so you don't have to worry about that. Probably be in a little bit of hostile territory with some of the teams down there. But at the same time, we look at this as an incredible opportunity to see if we can put together what we learned, the mistakes we made, even in the Big Ten tournament, wrap them all into one and see where it takes us. Questions?
Tom, you mentioned you think the first game can be the toughest of the NCAA tournament. I'm wondering what are the dynamics that makes that? And the last 10 years or so, it seems like that's kind of been the case more so for you earlier in your career.
I think it's that way because the last 10 years there's more and more parity. I don't think it's all us. I mean, everybody wants to, these stats where you lost to somebody in 1911, so history shows that that's all BS, as we all know. It's every year is a different team, every year is a different situation. I just think that this day and age, when people start making matchups, I mean, last night, who's definite in the Sweet 16, who's in the Elite Eight, who's in the Final Four, and usually three-fourths of the teams they pick aren't even around. It's like the social media, it used to be 50% was true, now it's probably down to 20. So I look at it as the first game is one that your players got to get used to playing. Everybody handles the tournament a different way. With our lack of experience there, meaning Gabe and last year, just so hard to even put that in, although, other teams have some of the same issues. But what's happened now is with the transfer rule being like it is, people have transferred from other schools that at least have played in it. Like Tyson's never played in it. He was so excited that there were motorcycles escorting us to the game. He thought he was in heaven. First he thought we were going to jail or something, and then he said, this is what it's like. I said, yeah, it's a little different than at Northern Michigan or Northeastern, and so getting used to that is a factor if you haven't played in one. Now, the issue is a lot of these teams have guys that are fifth and sixth year players that have played in them, maybe somewhere else, but at least they played in them. So I've always said the first game is the most important from day one. And of course, then when you guys interview me, if we win, I'm going to tell you the second game is the most important. That's just the way it is. So pick that up and you'll save yourself a lot of hassle, but it is hard, first game.
Tom, can you believe it's been 22 years since a Big Ten team won a national championship? And while I hope you probably think you could win 6 in a row, I mean, do you think the drought could end with some of the higher seed teams in there this over the next month?
I do. I think we got some really good teams in our league. From the Purdue's and Illinois and Wisconsin's, and there's the surprise team of Iowa that might be playing as good, is playing as good or better than anybody in our league right now. But the tournament comes down to matchups. It always has. It always will. It's not necessary the best team wins. It's some of the matchups along the way. Do you have a small team that could play against a big team? Do you have a big team that could play against a small team? Do you have a pressing team? There's so many different facets of it that I just think right now we have a lot of teams in, 9 teams in. I mean, I think we were looking at last night. I don't know. Do you know? There's something you should know where all these stats out that I think we played 17, 18, 19 games against how many? Against opponents in the tournament. That seems like a lot out of 31, 32 games. Probably more than that even. So I guess we're all battle tested, and but it just comes down to those matchups, and then does the ball go in the hole? I think we have a chance, but I thought we've had a chance. I mean, of the 8 Final Fours I've been in, I think 3 or 4. We've had 2 Big Ten teams in there. Ohio State and us, Wisconsin and us, Illinois and us, Michigan and us, and we didn't get it done. So I don't think that's necessarily a knock on the league. I just think it is what it is, and but I think this year we have a chance. 9 teams in, we have a good chance.
You're a preparation freak, kind of like Judd's way, where if the weather were nice, he'd play golf this week. But I'm wondering if your preparation with the parity in basketball has changed at all to where maybe you used to keep a half an eye on game 2 and you can't afford to do that anymore? Or is that different at all or not?
No, of all people, of all people, I mean, I did learn that my first Final Four, that after the game I watched carefully as I think it was Duke played Connecticut, and I think it was Mike that coined the phrase that I stole. I mean, we steal everything, and that's it. You got to try to win the weekend. And I thought, what the hell does that mean? You know, I was just trying to survive and win a game. Then we won the national championship. And I realized nobody cared about the regular season, sort of. Nobody cared about the Big Ten tournament, sort of. Nobody cared about the NCAA tournament, sort of. I just cared about do you get to the Final Four? And so that made me realize that winning a game in the tournament didn't do as much. And I think the concept behind it is pretty solid. That, you know, like on Monday, Tuesday of this week, we have our assistants that each have a team, and we'll look at some things that could happen. And do you prepare for Duke? Well, that'd be insane. And the minute I say that, one of you guys, or better yet, your headline guy, will say, Michigan State's preparing for Duke, you know. No insult to him, even though I'd like to insult him. But what we do is we'll put a couple things in that some of these, I guess the best example, if Davidson never pressed and the second round foe would be someone who pressed all the time, we'd work on the press a little bit more. If we, on Monday and Tuesday, if we played, we're going to play a team like Purdue, that you never saw a 7-4 guy, we'd work on that a little bit. So we don't go there and say, okay, we say these are some concepts of what, you know, other teams that we might play. And just take 15, 20 minutes to work on them. We don't go through film sessions with them and that, but we try to prepare so the day and a half, if we get the advantage, on Wednesday and Thursday, it'll be solid Davidson, and that's the way we've done it. It's been pretty good for me, so I just got to always think I'm being a smart fella. I'm really not. I think people take the perception wrong, so I'm trying to explain it best I can. 90% of our prep will be on, but we will look at some things.
Bob put together a roster with a lot of international guys on that. I guess, how has that maybe changed the preparation, or is it a little bit different when you've got so many guys spread around for a team?
You know, I don't know if it's because of the foreign players that it should change anything. Players are players nowadays, but you do realize that there's things they do a little different, footwork and the ball fakes and the steps and all the things that are more that way. You have to be prepared for it a little differently. But for the most part, the world is such a basketball. You know, basketball is maybe, I guess soccer, but, you know, everybody plays it. So I think this day and age, we're getting more people that are playing it. We're all playing it a similar way. But there are some fundamental things that, especially like post players, that are very, very good. The European way is very good. They step. They usually can use both hands or some things. So, you know, we'll go over that. But I don't think, other than that, I don't think it's that much different.
Have you seen more of American players adopting Euro moves, or more Euro players over here adopting American style?
Never thought of that. You know, here, it used to be till the NBA got so good that traveling was traveling. Now there is no such thing anymore. So that's changed a little bit. But the Euro step, you know, you do see a few players using it. So I'd say, since I think you could argue, and again, I don't know because I haven't had that many, but usually the European players are more fundamentally sound because they actually work on fundamentals where we work on YouTube and one games. And so they're a little more fundamentally sound than us.
Hey, Tom, if Tyson is limited or out or whatever, what is Jaden ready for a different role in this game, or how do you handle that?
Well, Jaden is ready for a different role because Jaden has constantly gotten a little better. He's playing now 18, 17 minutes. He's getting up in that 20-minute mark. I've been very, very, really excited about the process and progress that Jaden Akins has made as he continues to work on his shooting. He's the one guy that can get in the paint. And I think that'll be critical in a game like this. But, Jaden, I think, picks up things pretty well, and he'll be ready. And Tyson, on the other hand, I mean, I'm sure he won't practice today. Then beyond today, it's a coin flip. I mean, it's not like that thing's all swollen up. As I said, the swelling's gone down. It was a pretty good sprain. I've never been one for secrets. So Shazam, Mr. Headline Writers, give your guys some credit. He won't practice today. And I don't blame you if you think I'm a smart aleck on it, but been through as much as I've been through with that crap. I don't blame me either. So, that being said, I think and hope that Tyson will be able to play. And I think and hope that you're going to see more and more minutes out of Jaden either way, because he's one of our best defenders. He's our best offensive rebounding perimeter guy by far. And he's just kind of stayed under the radar and slowly made his name. I just love what he's done and how he is and how he works.
Tom, back to the Big Ten picture. You were in the first four last year. What would you tell Peichel and Woodson about that experience? And are you surprised that Rutgers and Indiana were that close to not making it in?
I was. I didn't think, there's so many factors, and I'm not in that room, but I think Peichel, they've won a lot of quad one games, right? And everybody talks about those two losses. I know that the whole year, I like that, the end of the year shouldn't be that much better, but injuries do play a factor in this, and they're supposed to, and they had some injuries early when they lost some of those games, so I don't know how it works. I had enough trouble keeping track of my own team, but I was a little surprised in their case. Indiana was consistently a little more inconsistent like us, and but I think some of the big wins they had, I guess it would be hard for me to believe that either one of those teams weren't two of the better 68 in the country. And but that play-in game, what would I tell them? Cut out at the free throw line. I tell them that. And if you get a 13-point lead, find a way to win the damn game. I tell them that. I probably will tell them that. I'll call them today just so you guys reminded me. But I think it's, when you get there, it's no different. Playing game is no different. You're part of the NCAA tournament. You get a chance to advance. Ask who was it that VCU with what's his name at Marquette? Shaka. And he did a hell of a job then, and he's done a hell of a job at Marquette this year. But Shaka did, so nobody cared. UCLA, nobody cared that they were the play-in game. They're playing in a Final Four, and so was Shaka. So maybe you should look at the glass half full, which I always do. And it'll be good luck for Rutgers or for Indiana.
Last year, when they matched you and UCLA, people said, oh, that's the TV game. Mm-hmm. Now there's one with Big Ten and Notre Dame. Do you think that enters into this?
Do you?
I think it's always all about the money.
So you answered your own question. You don't?
I'm saying I went through the mock selection thing one year. We followed it exactly by the rules. And when we got a bracket, there was like 5, 6 things where people would say you manufactured that. I'm not saying they don't, but you get them anyway. So you're going to play in the middle? Huh? You're going to play the middle?
Typical media guy. Yeah. It's a good thing you're true. You're true to form. Okay, all right, let's go.
Follow perfectly and still get those. It's all about the money.
Those are some weird matchups, though, when you talk about those teams. When the other play-ins are completely opposite, it makes you, but I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not privy to that, really don't care about that. And as a play-in team, if that's what you want to call it last year, when you get 2 of them that have been the Final Fours, in how many years have they had it? 6, 8? That's pretty damn good. So I wouldn't feel bad about it, that's for sure.
Do you have any coaching buddies you lean on for Davidson, A10 or wherever? I don't know.
Yeah,
Not a lot.
I mean, we all got friends that, I mean, I unfortunately wouldn't tell you if they were in the league, but we have assistants at places that we know. We have, I mean, as they do. I mean, Bob's been in it longer than I have, so I'm sure he's got a lot of good friends in the Big Ten. But when you have, it's not as important as it was years ago because you have so much film on everybody. I mean, everybody's got every game of everybody. And so it just takes a little more work. And maybe if you had a friend that played against them twice or something, you'd validate what you're thinking. But I don't think there's many secrets out there. I really don't. So that wouldn't be our first, second, or third line of defense on this.
Tom, you mentioned yesterday him being a guy who's had opportunities to leave and stayed. You're a guy who's had those things. And is there a kinship in that with coaches who have been at a place that combined more than 70 years? Not to make you.
Damn. Jesus. I tell you what I think of you right now, Graham, if we weren't on public. But you know what? I as I told you, I don't know Bob real well. I know of him real well, but the little time I've spent with him a couple occasions, love the guy. I mean, he's great. He's a good coach. That's evident, but I think he's a good guy too. And I love the fact that he was one of the top guys on the ethics committee, and so he's done it the right way, And but I don't know if the kinship. We can talk about things that are a little real for a lot of years, but we don't really discuss a lot of things. And when I see him, it'll be good. I mean, I do appreciate what he's done. I think he's appreciated what I've done. I think we do understand that staying in the same place has many, many, many blessings. And it's got a few curses, and I'm sure it's the same, except he lives on a lake and the weather's nicer there. So other than that, I think we probably got a similar path.
You're on a lake?
Huh?
You're on a lake?
I'm on a lake? That's called a pond, Fred. A pond is a little different than, So if there was a puddle out in front of my house, do I say I have lakefront property? Is that the way it works? Jesus. Yeah.
I know that there's been resistance to the storyline, obviously, but, I mean, it kind of lit up the early talk of this game yesterday. I'm just curious, did you talk to Foster sometime last night or today, and maybe what the nature of that conversation was kind of like going into this, something that's going to be very focused on?
I probably will today, to be honest with you, but I did a lot before their tournament when he was injured, and I did a lot, and that's the only thing that would ruin this for me if people were like they were when he was here, because I thought that was completely asinine. And if any Michigan State people do that, they can pull for somebody else. That's how strongly I feel about it. Nobody deserves some of the things that have happened to different people, nor do I deserve it sometimes, but I get paid for it. But that would be the only thing. Foster left here. It was a 2-week session of going back and forth and pros and cons. And unlike just kind of going in like the modern time, to me, weak people do, he sat in my office and talked about it. Didn't just go and sign his name up on a sheet without the coach knowing or something. He did it the real way, the right way. And as I said to you last night, my dream is someday he comes back here and is a GA and works his way in, because I think he'll be a coach. Just like I've often said about some of my counterparts that I got to go against, I can't like him Friday night, but I can respect and love what he's done for me and for a lot of people. And so maybe I was the same size. I wish I was as good a player as he's been and has done. But I just hope and pray that the same idiots that attacked him when he was here sometimes don't try to do that now. And that's what I'm worried about of the storyline. That's why I don't want to. So will I talk to him? I'm sure I will. Have I? Yes, I have. And, on that night, I'm not going to like him any more than he's going to like me. So that's the beauty of the tournament, It's not always liking, it's respecting your opponent. And that's, he'll have total respect. If anybody follows him, I'm going to probably take the kid out of the game because I know he's not missing a free throw.
You kind of a little bit alluded to what I was going to ask you, but we haven't really asked you about this since the last game here. Had you seen that footage of the game against MSU that you had played at Northern before that?
No, I don't think we had projectors up there. So, and that wasn't because of dating it. It was just because of money. I never saw that. I was a little mad because when I first met Mike, he had the giant afro. He had the one out to here, and God, that thing was all trimmed up. I was disappointed in that, but just shows you, as I said all along, fat ties, skinny ties, long skirts, short skirts, bell bottoms, straight legs. Short shorts came back. They were there then. They're there again now. So history does repeat itself. But I had not seen that footage. Somebody in the archives here did a hell of a job. And the neat part about it is, we're going to not use that footage, but now we realize we have more film that they've found. So when we have our reunions and get those guys coming back from the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, and I met the guy, he told me they've got more than they even thought. So that'll be cool to have for our former players, not for me and Mike. But it brought back good memories seeing Gus. My buddy Mariucci happened to be in that weekend, and he had a big students section. It was the Italian Army, and it was all that, and the place was packed. But think about Gus. Think about Gus in the middle of the winter going to northern Michigan and playing us, and snowing so bad they couldn't land at the airport, so they had to land at K.I. Sawyer, which was the air base that had all the B-52 bombers. And the land there is, you go up there on a private plane now, which I've done a couple times, and it's like landing a BB on a 4-lane highway. It's so big, and he went through all that, and Gregory Kelser, and it's kind of fun to talk to Benny White, talk to the guys that actually were up there. They thought they were in Siberia, and so it was good. But that broke the ice a little bit for all the stress that goes on. We did get to laugh as they took my team up there. I didn't know what it was about. We showed it on the big screen, and Garland and I laughed. So it was good to laugh at yourself once in a while.
Do they call you Tommy anymore?
Yeah, there's a few people that call me Tommy. Not many people call me Tom or Tommy. They've got other letter words now that they use that are a lot better.
That was the one thing I wanted to ask you, was about sharing that with the team, because it seemed like that was maybe a special moment for you, just kind of.
Well, I didn't even know. I had no idea what it was. Then nobody told me either, and the guy from Archives was there, and so he. When I say we shared it with the team, as they laughed at us, I just said to them, the beauty of this is we have a lot more film on you than you have on us, and we laugh at you all the time and swear at you and do everything else. So you can laugh at us, but let me tell you something, feelings mutual. So it was a great love affair that day with me and the players and Mike.
Tom, I know in Indy you didn't want to make too much out of AJ's game against Purdue, but I am curious about what you see in him long-term potential as a leader. It seems like from the outside maybe he has some of those traits where he could develop into that guy that you have said that you don't really have right now.
Well, we think he can. That's why we recruited him. I was disappointed in maybe the length of time it's taken, but I don't define one or two times as getting over the hump, but there is defining moments in everybody's career. Whether it be, I still look back at mine and I say, you know, John Chaney might have saved my career, you know. Seth Greenberg might have saved my career. And that was all in those first year or two when we went down and played Seth and we won a game. It was against South Florida. Who cares, right? But they were a tough team. It kind of led us to go to Purdue and winning. John Chaney telling me about scheduling and what I should do there. And so there's defining moments in everybody's life or everybody's career. Can one game be a defining moment? It can be the start of a defining moment. And if he realizes not only what he did and being under control more, not charging, but being a little better leader, and then we really got something to build on, because he really is a skillful, talented kid who can throw lobs, you know, and, you know, his shooting's got to improve, you know, and he knows that. But I think if you have one of those defining moments when things, you know, come together and then you watch the film and say, hey, you could have sprayed it here, there, and everywhere, and he's more receptive to that, then it could be a very big defining moment that helps lead him. But, you know, I think what we have a tendency to do, it was just like when we had the 9-game winning streak, we have a tendency to think a few things determine a year, and they don't. And in AJ, I'm excited because I think he's made some progress. But, you know me, I'm not canonizing anybody until it's 21 days straight of it, as the world says.
As a leader, though, does he have that personality? You think not even basketball-wise?
He's got great leadership qualities, because what AJ is, to be a leader, you have to have some toughness, both mental and physical, if you ask me. And most of my leaders that have been, well, the two toughest guys on my team are probably him and probably Julius. And mentally tough means that you have faith in what you can do, you have confidence in what you can do, sometimes too much confidence before it's been warranted. And I've told AJ, I think that's been something, you know, you can't be great without being cocky. And if you're too cocky before you get to be great, that can be a detriment. You know, it goes both ways. I'm really pleased by the progress he's made this year. I think last year we lost some opportunities, and so that's the way I look at this thing. He's gotten better. He's lost some weight. He's in better shape. All the things that he had to do from last year, he's done a lot of them. Now keep working on your shooting, get in the gym more, you know. I mean, but if I looked at the process that I always talk about, that I complain to you guys that we canonize people too early. If I looked at where Draymond was in his process, if I looked at where Xavier was in his process, I look at where Denzel was in his process, Morris Peterson was in his process. AJ's ahead of some of them. It's just that the need was a little more warranted in the position. The position, you know, is, I talk to Mel about it all the time. I mean, that position mandates a little bit more than the other positions. He has the skill. He has the feel for the game. He has the toughness. It's now getting a few of those other things around him together, leading people by being able to talk to people and not do this. That's going to be the next major step for him. But I am excited for him. I had a long meeting with him last night because we have no idea on the status of Tyson right now and how we're going to have to help other guys that could play the position that night if it doesn't work out. And he was great. So yeah, he's making progress. He really is.
This is a little off topic. You talk about doing things the right way, and I wonder, we saw Bruce Weber there in his post game the other night, pretty emotional. It's just a message. I assume you've talked to him, but your thoughts on just sort of how that went and sort of the reaction to it too.
Ironically, Bruce, I think, was on that same ethics committee with John Beilein and of course Bob McKillop. I mean, those guys to me are some of the rocks of our profession. And, Bruce has been through it all. He is a good friend. I think we became good friends because he survived Gene and I survived Judd. So we became good friends for that reason. I talked to Gene about it after our Wisconsin game and before our Purdue game, and I have talked to Bruce more than a couple times. But I thought his press conference was spot on. I thought he said what a lot of people like to say, but don't say, and I give him a lot of credit for that. I think he told it like it is. I think 90% of the people know what's happening. 65% of them don't want to talk about it, and I understand. I'm include me in some of that, but what Bruce did is he didn't call out any one individual. He called out the system, the situation, and hard to argue with the things and the time it takes. And I felt for Bruce. I know this. Played against him at Illinois. Played against him in the NCAA tournament. He's a hell of in the Big Ten tournament. He's a hell of a coach, and hopefully he'll get something beyond that. I told him I wouldn't retire if I was him. He's got too much he still wants to prove, and he's too good for the game. And that's the same thing I told John Beilein. And I thought maybe he'd get back in. You never know. But it was all good. It was all good, and he'll survive. He's a survivor.
Tom, following up on that, could he be somebody's Phil Martelli?
Love Phil Martelli, too. I hate when I like my enemy. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. But I do like Phil a lot. I think Phil Martelli's another guy that was on all those boards. He's the class of the class. I mean, he just, if you know him, he speaks his mind, but he does it in such a good way. And I could see Phil Martelli getting another job. It just depends. We are like everything else in the world. What's the hot topic now? Is it go to the young guys? Is it go to the older guys? Is it do this? Is it do that? It changes like the sun. If you have success, like somebody asked me, how hard are you going to practice? Well, I'm going to practice my butt off this week. And if we're tired on Friday, I'm doing it my way, and next time maybe I'd do it different. It all comes down to what you have success at. But I think Phil Martelli, the Bruce Webbers, those guys, I mean, I look at what they accomplished, where they were at. I mean, I hate to say it, but St. Joe's they were on the map. And, that hasn't been that way since he left. So I think there's some very good coaches that, we get tired of. You're all going to get tired of me. That's the way it works. But
do you think Bruce is done, or could he fill that role?
Oh, could he fill that role?
And be
Could he be an assistant again?
Yeah.
I think Bruce could, because Bruce, like Judd always would say, I do this job for nothing. Well, the problems we have now, I'm not sure I would. What goes on now, but I think Phil Martelli was in that mold, and I think Bruce Weber could be in that mold. I mean, he loves the game. I talked to Phil after, and he loves the game. He wasn't ready to get out of the game. He doesn't love all the problems, but he loves the game. And I think Bruce Weber's in the exact same spot. And whether it's as an assistant or whether it's at a head coach somewhere, I think somebody would be lucky to have him, as they were Phil.
I had one other thing for you. You can't control who, where, or when you play in the tournament, but you've seen what happens when you play Sunday afternoon and then you have to go west and play on Thursday. How much might it help you with the injuries to have played Saturday and now you get the last game on Friday?
Well, it's, now that Judd's gone, I don't feel as bad, because he would have had a hard time staying up for that game. They get so late, those 9:40 games usually start about 10 o'clock. Like the 10 o'clock start about 10:15, and I think last year, what time did we start that game at Purdue? It was so late. In fact, I saw Mel walk in, he flew in and took a nap and then watched the game. It was so late that game started, And so I don't know. I'm glad we play on Friday instead of Thursday. I think that helps us with Tyson for sure. But I'm a little surprised the way they do that. I guess Duke could be favored to come out of our region, and then they got to go from there across the country and play on Thursday. I'm a little surprised. I don't really understand all that. I don't get into that stuff. And if I can come out of there, I'll bus to San Francisco and just stay at Mariucci's pool and call it a day. Go visit Draymond, take our team out to dinner on Draymond. We'll do some of that stuff, but I don't think it really matters. Playing late at night, it'd be hard for you, Jack. It might be maybe getting harder for me. But for the 20-year-olds, they just go out at 10:20 at night. So that's a piece of cake. They might be at their best at midnight. So this is a good deal for us. I'm gonna try to turn the tide on that and say it's a good deal. Anything else? Well, then I know you're here because my favorite time of year. D'Antonio and I used to talk about this. He used to say, it's my favorite time of year. I say, why is that? He says, basketball season. I say, why is that? Because then I'm done with football and I can sit back and enjoy something. Well, spring ball's coming up, right, Mel? So it's my favorite time of year because two things happen at this time of year. The clocks change, so you get out of practice and it's light. That's my favorite time. That means we're moving on into the NCAA tournament. And spring football starts. That's my favorite time because that means that I don't have to put up with you guys much longer. We can start moving forward, and it's a hell of a deal. So without further said, I'm introducing you, Mel. Get up here. Tell him what you think of Davidson, and let's go to work.
Fred. All right. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. It's good to see everyone. Did you miss me? Not so much. Not so much. First off, March Madness is a great time of year for the Spartans, and just want to congratulate Coach Izzo on making his 24th consecutive NCAA tournament, which is the longest streak in Big Ten history, which is amazing to me. And also for becoming the all-time winningest coach at a Big Ten school. Some amazing accomplishments. Coach Izzo, we all know he's a great guy. He's a great coach. He's been really special to me. He's been very helpful since the day that I got here. He's welcomed me, and I've learned a lot from him. We talk pretty much every day, or at least text, and I'm really pulling for him. And what a treasure that we have here with Coach Izzo, and we'll never get tired of him. I can tell you that much. I'm really excited to get started with spring ball. The guys have worked really hard in our Spartan training program. We have about 8 weeks of strength and conditioning with Coach Novak and his staff. The guys run, they lift, and we do stations. The guys are really straining. We got some new guys, we got some transfers, we got some mid-year high school guys, and then all the returning guys just really preparing to get ready for spring ball. And it's part of the process, They really didn't take much time off. Guys really started this off season pretty much in shape, and we just picked up where we left off. And I want to see who can play, like in the spring. That's the big thing. We're going to install our schemes. We're going to offense, defense, and special teams, all the X's and O's. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we know what our guys can do, how much they can do, how fast they can do it going into our summer program. And the summer is a lot different than it used to be. Like football is a year-round thing now, so this is just a process because we work out in the summer, we practice in the summer. We meet. I mean, there's things we can do in the summer as well, leading up until fall camp. So, but we will get a chance to put the pads on at some point, starting on Saturday, and we'll be able to start striking and knocking guys around and seeing who can play. And we need to develop our team. I feel good about this team. I feel good about the culture of our program. The guys are bought in. The new guys they fit in well, and we have a lot of competition. And like I told those guys when we started the 8-week program, there's no one has a job. I mean, we don't. Just because you started last season, that doesn't mean you're going to start this season. And it's open competition. There's no sense of entitlement. You'll get what you earn, and we have to prove ourselves every single day. So that's the mentality that we're taking. I just had a really good meeting with the staff. We have some new staff members, position coaches and support staff, and just make sure we're all on the same page going into tomorrow morning. And I feel really good about our staff, and everyone's on the same page, and we know what we need to accomplish and how we're going to go about doing things. And it's going to be a relentless mindset. The things that we talk about, the things we harp on in our culture every single day, they do not change. It's not just the first day. It's not just the first week. It's just perpetual motion. It just never stops. It goes on and on and on and on. We're going to hammer the details, the sense of urgency, the discipline, the teamwork, the connection, the accountability, all those things. We're hammering those things day in and day out, and we'll have a better football team when we come out of spring ball. I can promise you that. So it's a great time of year. We also had a pro day coming up on Wednesday. That's a big day for the program. I anticipate we'll get someone drafted this year, and guys have been working really hard since the end of the season to get ready for the pro day, and we have some guys that did a good job at the combine. Guys really helped themselves there. I mean, I told the scouts, K9's fast. How fast is he? How fast is he? The guy can run. So, it's been good that way for our guys. So, looking forward to getting them back on campus and seeing those guys work out. So, with that, I'll open up for questions if you have any.
Yeah, Mel, you mentioned there's a lot of jobs that are open, but Peyton Thorne is coming back, having been the starting quarterback. That's different than 12 months ago. Are you noticing with the experience he's had that he's evolving as a leader now? Are you seeing a difference in him with his experience?
He is a leader. He's our leader on offense. He's made some tremendous strides. And he always gets better. So the leadership deal that piece is a big part of what we need to get worked out this spring. Because we have some new guys, and we're encouraging those guys to step up and lead. Just because you're new, that doesn't mean you can't lead. But Coach Izzo talks about all the time, a player-led team versus a coach-led team. We made some progress last season with being more player-led, but not to the point where we need to be. So we need to step that up. Peyton he's leading. We need more guys to step up and lead. X is a leader. Jay Reed's a leader. There's more. Yeah, Peyton. We had an exercise about a couple of weeks ago, week and a half ago, where we had a 2-day training deal, and with a firm called The Program, they came in and worked with us and took the guys through some paces, and it was about leadership and building a cohesive team. And Peyton did maybe the best job in that regard that they have seen since they've been really running that program.
I was actually going to keep it on basketball for a minute. You are very visible at games, and you don't sit on your hands to the point where you were in the zone one game. What was that about? What was that like?
What was that about? I was cheering. I mean, I was rooting for our team. That's what that was about. How I ended up in their zone, don't ask me. But I was there. Yep, I was there, and I learned some things. They have some traditions in there and some things they do. And they asked me when I got there. They said, "Hey, do you want to know? Like, you want us to coach you up?" I said, "No, I'll just coach me on the run, and I'll try to pick it up." And I lasted for a half, but it was fun. It was fun. That is on that thing. That's special. It really is. I mean, there's the deep end. In the woodshed, that's where we're going with it. That's where we're going.
Mel, I wonder for you, a year ago, you guys hadn't had the spring ball, and I wonder what the challenges were a year ago at this time that you had to get through, and how much now a year later having that experience of spring ball helps going into this year.
Yeah, so it was our first spring with the staff, so we had to really establish like how do we work in the spring, and it's different than the fall and things like that. So we laid that foundation with those guys, and it's a lot different now because the guys that are returning, they've been through it before, and they know what it's all about, and they know like that Spartan training program, that 8 weeks, they know how important that is because it needs to prepare you for a spring. Because when we start tomorrow morning, like we're going, and we're not gonna have the pads on, but we're not gonna be tiptoeing around out there. I mean, like we're full speed, like we're gonna be like hitting the ground running, and so it's a lot different. But on the other hand, though, I tell you what, like I talked to the staff, like we can't assume things, though. That we can't assume like we have returners, we have guys that are returning. And some of those guys are experienced, and they know like what the standard is. But there's still some guys that are returning that don't have as much experience, and they're still learning like what is the standard, like what does it take to get the job done. And then we have new guys come in that are some guys that are transfers that are older guys, and then we have the freshmen. So we can't really assume anything. We're not starting over. But we're not skipping any steps either, and everything has a progression, everything has a process. So, and we're just gonna be coaching some coaching Jessies out there, and we're gonna be stance, alignment, key, initial move, responsibility, technique and fundamentals, smart, fast, physical. I mean, never getting bored with the basics, and going after it, and we're gonna build these guys from the ground up.
And I was wondering, with the coaching changes you had in the offseason, kind of the reshuffle with Ron not being back, and you kind of split it up a little differently with Marco being the D-line coach and coordinator, and then Brandon being the pass rush specialist. I was wondering if you kind of just break down how you came to that conclusion or how you wanted to go in that direction.
Yeah, so pass rush is important. You know, we need to affect the quarterback with rush and coverage. And I felt like with B, Jordan, we had an opportunity to improve our pass rush, and also help us in recruiting. And so I made that move, and then you know, just in terms of like the D line, like how are we going to break it up? You know, anyone who rushes the passer, anyone who's going to be rushing, you know, B. Jordan's going to work with them on that. It could be a corner blitzing off the edge. You know, it could be a safety coming from the roof and timing up and hitting it. Be a linebacker hitting it, and then obviously with the guys up front. You know, that's that's how we're going to do it. It's not a big deal.
Right here. Going back to the quarterback thing a little bit, obviously when you have an established starter like this, you go into a spring and you don't, in terms of the depth, there's no real experience in that depth. And I know you can't obviously play games in the spring, but how important can that be for some of those guys behind there, or what's your approach to try and bring those guys along so that once you get to the season, if you need to go to that, you know, you're not going to a guy who's maybe a little overwhelmed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, you know, they're all going to get reps, and like we just talked about, we need the practice rep. We need the practice reps to be as close to the game reps as we can possibly get, like the full speed reps. And so, because that's really the only, like, if so, say for instance you say, well, how do you put a guy out there and he's starting for the first game? Maybe he might be a freshman, or maybe he hadn't started before. He said, well, how did you know that he could do it? You know, well, if you see him do it in practice, he should be able to do it in the game if the practices are very similar or harder than the games. So that's how we get the guys ready. You know, so when we scrimmage and when we practice and we're going full speed, if a guy can be successful, in practice, going against really good competition, and the amount of pressure we put on the guys and the situation we put them, if they can do it there, then I'm certain they can do it in the game. So that's how we get all the guys ready, the quarterbacks, you know, everyone who takes the reps. And it's a relentless mindset. It's a relentless mindset. So like when the guys step on the field, for practice, like when they step literally in, like tomorrow morning in the weave, they're moving. Like they got the hurdles lined up. They're going over the hurdles. They're going under the hurdles. They're doing joint mobilities. They're moving until we go to walkthrough, and then walkthrough, they, you know, horn blows and they're there, and the guys are in the stance and the flat back. They got the chin strap. I mean, everything's going. Then when we get into practice, I mean, even when we flex, every stretch, like every movement, we're going to coach it. And it's going to be intense, and it's going to be attention to detail with a sense of urgency. And then when we start the practice, we get into there, guys are going to be running from drill to drill, and guys are going to be getting coached on every play. We're going to coach them on the way back to the huddle. We're going to chase them to the ball. We're going to chase them back, and the guys are going to take the field when we transition with groups. Guys are going to be, and it's going to be like that the whole time. Very intense, very up. Sense of urgency, attention to detail, shirts are tucked in, chin straps buckled, shoes tied up, you're either taped or you're braced. I mean, it's yes sir, no sir, coach me coach, no one's talking back. It's like that, and it's not just going to be like that on practice one. It's not just the first week, it's every single day. Everything we do is just a relentless mindset. It's never going to be any let up. It's never going to stop. So there's no ability to be comfortable. There's no relief. There's no relief. It's just it's a constant pressure cooker, and that's And then you find out what guys can do, and you put them in those situations, and they have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and then they develop, and then if they can do it on a consistent basis in practice, then you put them in the game. You know what? You're not surprised. Like, hey, were you surprised to see how? No, I'm not surprised because I saw them do it in practice, and we're not just throwing guys out there and hoping. And like getting back to your deal like with Marco. With Marco and B. Jordan, I mean that's juice, you know. That's more juice, you know. That's more intensity. That's more attention to detail. That's more being specific. That's more like getting after it. And you know, guys working together and steel sharpen steel. And you know, we're going to be putting pressure on the offense. The offense is going to be putting pressure on us, and we're going to be out there getting after them. And we got guys that have experience coaching guys at high levels. And we're on, you know, we got a chip on our shoulder, and we're going out there to get better. And so, you know, with Marco and B, and then, you know, with Scotty going to coaching the linebackers now instead of coaching defensive ends, and then Harlan coaching the secondary, I'm working with the corners. Like, that's juice, and we're going out there to get something done out there. And then same thing on offense with the guys coming back, and then Ephraim stepping up the coach to backs. I already seen him coach. I mean, I know he can coach. That's why he's got the job. And then we're going out there competing. Everybody's got to get better, and nobody cares what we did last year. The last year wasn't good enough anyway. So it's just that's the atmosphere that needs to be on the field, and you should see that when you come to practice. If you don't see it, if you don't feel it, then I'm not doing my job. We're not getting it done out there.
How much more do you think your message resonates this year, maybe even versus last year, just because these players have seen the success? Like, you know, you use a lot of sayings, aggregation of marginal gains. You know, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. A lot of those sayings. How much do you think that connects with the players now that they've seen the success, what the recipe produces?
It resonates with them, and they know what we're talking about because we give them examples. You know, like the aggregation of marginal gains, it's not just a slogan on the wall. You know, it's like, hey, everyone get a little bit better every single day. So each position coach, you go to your players, you say, hey, today I want you to get better at this. I want you to work on this. I want you to work on this. I want you to. So everyone's working on something. Everybody gets just a little bit better, the whole team. Then you add that up in aggregate, then you get better a lot faster when you do it that way. But they understand these things. Like, they understand, like, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, because we're not going to let them be comfortable. When they walk in the meeting room, their feet are on the floor. Okay, they're sitting up. Everybody's got a notebook, a pen, a pencil, an eraser, a highlighter. They got their stuff out, and they need to be paying attention. You know, and we're making sure they're taking notes, and we're going to collect the notes, and we're going to look at them. We're going to photocopy them, give them back, and see who's taking notes and the quality of notes, so we can coach them up on that. I mean, so if they don't, so they know, like they know what it is, and the people that have decided to come here, they've come here because that's what they want. Because when they come here on the visits and they talk to the players, they say, well, what's it like? And they say, well, it is really like this here. Like, he is like this. I mean, this is what they're like this all the time. And the players say, they resonates with them, and they say, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I need to get better. That's how I can reach my full potential as a player. I need to come here and do that. And they get here, and then it just clicks. Say, oh yeah, it's exactly what they said it was. Even more so. So I don't think there's any issue with it resonating with them. But you can't assume that just because they kind of caught on last year, they're going to catch on this year.
Right, but how much harder would it be to sell, you know, no block, no rock if you go 4-8 versus, you know, 11-2? I mean, like, hey, you know, obviously what I'm telling you is leading to success. I mean, and now the players, you know, probably have full buy-in based off of what season you had last year. Yeah, I mean, you can certainly look at it that way because, you know, we were 2-5, and then we went to whatever we were a year. I mean, they were bought in before we started the season, coming off a 2-5 year, because it makes sense. You know, it makes sense. Like, football is the ultimate team sport. Okay, football is the ultimate team sport, and everybody's got a job to do, and, you know, you're playing for the man next to you, and, you know, it's not about you, it's about the team, and you're buying into something that's bigger than yourself, right? So
like if you're a receiver, you're not willing to block. Okay, on these run plays, you're not willing to go dig out the safety or stalk block this corner and strain your gut to create room and make room for the back. Then no, you're not going to get the ball because you're not going to play. Now, it don't matter if we were 2 and 5 or whatever. You're not going to play, and we're going to find somebody to play, and we're going to win. You know, so let's buy into that. But that makes sense. Because the receiver wants the offensive line to strain and block for him, and the quarterback to do his job and get the ball to him. So it makes sense. We're not asking guys to do anything that like another program's not asking them to do. You know what I mean?
Mel, I'm wondering how much you relish this time of the year, this month, in evaluating your program when you don't have games, you don't have, you're not preparing for games. It's not the grind of week to week. How much this opportunity for you and your staff is something you really enjoy and it is critical for you?
Well, we're not game planning, and so one of the things I like about this time of year, Saeed Khalif comes in my office this morning, right? He comes in there and not even invited. He just walks in, okay? And then he's like, hey, man, I'm so excited. I said, you are? He said, yeah, I'm excited. I said, why? He says, because it's the start of like a new year. We get a chance to see who can do what, and you get these freshmen out here and who make the next. I mean, like, everybody's excited about it's like turning the page. But for me, I like it because it's good on good. Because you're not preparing for a game, so you don't have scout teams to run the other team's plays. So it's just offense versus defense, like just good on good the whole time. And that's different than when you're like preparing for games. So you can actually get better a lot faster if you go out there and compete. If you go out there and compete, you can make a huge jump. You can make a huge jump in spring ball as a team and as an individual, because it's really, really like good on good. And jobs are open, okay? And then guys know exactly where they are going into the summer. They know exactly where they are going into summer. This is what I have to do. If I'm going to play, if I'm going to start, I need to, and here's who I need to beat out. Here's what I need to be able to, and so they go through the summer with a different type of mindset going into the summer that leads into camp. So this is a huge part of the process.
Mel, you mentioned bringing in an outside, I think, leadership program for a couple of days. What do you think the players got out of that, and kind of what are some of the details that went into that process?
Yeah, sometimes it just reinforces some of the things that we talk about, but it's very revealing, and sometimes guys think they know what discipline is, and then they get into one of those programs and say, oh, this is what discipline really is, accountability. This is what accountability is really all about. It's kind of like an eye-opening thing, and we learn things as coaches. We're learning from them, and we're able to observe the players and learn more about our players, and so we're able to add things to our program. But I think they learn a lot. Like I talked to Maverick today, and he thanked me. He's like, I really appreciate you bringing those guys. I learned so much, and I told him, shoot, man, I learned a lot too. Learn a lot about the players, and then you pick up things from these other leaders. These guys have been leading and at a very, very high level. So yeah, it was good. You'd be amazed at what you can find out in a couple days about your team, and I'm really glad we did that. It's really helping us.
What was the name of that firm that you got in?
The program.
Mel, excuse me. You talked about it a little bit in your opening statement, but with those 3 guys who are in the combine and some other guys who are trying to make that jump to the next level pretty soon, what have just your conversations been like, or involvement been with those guys through that process? Yeah,
so I haven't talked to those guys like a whole lot. Some texts with Kanan. Like I saw Kanan at the Doak Walker deal. I tried to get to the other deal, but the weather wouldn't let us get up there that they just had on the East Coast. And then little bit with Connor. I text back and forth with Connor a little bit, and now check on. I check on Speedy. Those guys are they're chasing their dream, and they're getting it done. So I'm looking forward to those guys getting back. A lot of my role at this time is the scouts. They're constantly calling me, asking me about the guys. They're asking me about our guys or guys that I coached against, or some guys that I coached before. They're gathering information, and so that's the deal right now. It's amazing with the draft and all that. I mean, it's almost like we used to say when I was in the NFL. You're trying to find reasons not to draft a guy. You're just poking at a guy, and then eventually you got to draft someone. You stack the board, and there it is. So I feel really good about the guys that are went to the combine, going to be working out pro day and going into the draft. A great group of guys.
Mel, with Keon and Malik, it looks like from social media they've been doing a little bit with you guys when they can, I guess, in the weight room. But for you, just what's it been like to see them on the bench playing a little bit, and what have they told you about their experience? And also, most important, I mean, when are they with the basketball team until that's done, or how are they gonna be doing a split time with you guys in basketball this month?
Yeah, I mean, no, they're playing basketball, and like when Keon got when they were playing the school down the road, like at home, when he got in at the end, I knew what he was going to do. I mean, I knew he wasn't thinking about passing. I mean, he drove off. I mean, I knew it. Like, I wasn't even surprised, And they say Malik is doing a good job in practice, because I talked to Coach Izzo about those guys, and Keon's doing a good job, and it's. I love seeing those guys out there. There was a I saw on social media the other day there was a picture of like a Keon. He was like cheering on his teammates, and he had one guy. He's grabbing this guy's arm. He's on the bench. He was celebrating because they did a good job and maybe scored a bucket or something like that. So it was good to see those guys running around out there.
In terms of football practice, are they?
Yeah, they'll be back when they come back. So. We'll see.
I wondered about, you had a lot of veteran offensive linemen last year who had a lot of playing experience, and a lot of those guys are gone. How critical, I mean, is there a more important position for you guys this spring than offensive line development?
I wouldn't say more, no. No, offensive line development is huge, and we got the coach to do it, Coach Cap. He's a great teacher. He can motivate and inspire the guys, develop players. And we have a significant amount of guys that did play that are coming back, and we have some young guys that need to come on, and some of our younger guys are big dudes too. We have some huge guys, those young guys, but they're puppies, so we gotta get them going, and so Coach Cap's gonna handle that, and we'll have a strong offensive line.
But just to the point of clarity from earlier, you said Scotty's going to be coaching the linebackers.
Yep.
Is Ross just staying with special teams?
Yeah, he's special teams is going to coach the nickels. Yeah.
Just wondering, in terms of pro day, what would you tell NFL people that is the intangible that Kenneth Walker adds, and what kind of impact player do you think he'll be at the next level?
Yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball to predict that, but I'm telling you, he's like, when I talk to players about K9, when I talk to scouts about it, I talk to them about like how humble he is and his humility, and how he works. Like I've never seen him loaf, and that's hard to say about a player. I mean, he does not loaf. He doesn't even know how to loaf. Everything he goes, when you go on full speed, he's going all the way through. He's finishing. In the weight room, he's the same way, and he's a great. He's just a great teammate, and those guys. That's how you have a great team. Like we have great teammates. Like there was a company who wanted to. It was like an NIL deal, like during the season, and they said, hey, we'll do this, and then we can give you, so many items of this product to give to maybe to the other running backs or the offensive line or whatever. He wanted to do the whole team. They said, well, we can't do the whole team. He said, okay, well, that's okay. I'm good. And you don't see that. You know, you don't see that from guys. Just say, okay, I'm good. I'm just not going to do anything because I can't do it for everyone. You know, that's an intangible that teams are looking for, because everyone can play, right? Everyone can play, but everyone's not like that, and that's huge. And what type of impact he'll have, we'll see. I know one thing: he's going to attack everything whatever opportunity he gets, whatever role it is, whatever team he's going to hit the ground running. And he's going to get after it now.
Obviously, Kenneth was a game changer week to week. Do you think this team needs a game changer this fall? I mean, or do you think you've established a base of talent that's good enough across the board that, where you wouldn't need that kind of impact player on a week-to-week basis?
I mean, you know what? You're always looking for difference makers. I think you should have at least 3, maybe 4 difference makers on each side of the ball. And on special teams to have a really good team, like have a great team. So you absolutely, we're looking for game changers and difference makers.
And lastly, I mean, do you think with the NFL, you guys didn't get a draft pick last year. How important is getting players, obviously, to the league for what you want to do on a recruiting end? And can you talk about the impact of getting players to the pros and what it means from a recruiting standpoint?
It's important because all the players that we recruit want to go to the NFL, so they want to be in a program that they believe can help them develop into the type of player that they can get them there. They can be drafted. Because like I tell the players, I say you don't get drafted on what type of player you are right now. You get drafted on what type of player you are 3 years from now. 3 years out of high school. So, this is what you are here, but like in 3 years, can we get you here? Yes, we can get you here. And so, but the players the players we're recruiting, they understand that like we are just recently getting here. And so you would think that as we go, then we'll have more players drafted, and more players invited to the combine. Because like if you look at Georgia, right? And I know a lot of those guys. I know those guys, right? So they had 14 guys at the combine or something like that, and we had 3. So you would think that as recruiting goes and we develop, as our program continues to evolve, then we'll have more guys to the combine and more guys drafted. In
the spirit of March Madness, I was just wondering if you could put together a starting 5 lineup of football players on your team, who would it be?
To play basketball? So I would go with you talking about the Spartans?
Your football players.
My guys? Our guys? Okay.
A couple of them seem easy.
Does that include the 2 guys that are on?
Yes, it does, yes. Absolutely. How could you leave those guys out? Okay, so Keon, and Malik. I would say Montori. Montori would be a guy. Can I bring Hayward back for that?
We'll allow it, yeah.
Okay, he could be a 6th man. He could be an emergency guy. I would say Peyton. So that's a Montori. I'm kind of small there, but I need a bigger. I need like a.
You got a couple 6'8" linemen on your team.
You know what? Lockett. But we kind of small. But in March, in March it's all about guard play, right? Ethan Boyd. Yeah. How many fouls do you get in the tournament? 5 or 6? Yeah.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, appreciate you. Go Green.
I was a great key pitcher because I had accuracy.
The problem is you throw BP during the game.
Right. Absolutely true.
Right. Yeah, sure. I don't want to. Yeah, well, we'll keep it up here. Right, right.
All right, here's Michigan State baseball head coach Coach Boss. Spartans coming off a trip to Greenville and open up their home portion of the schedule this weekend, starting a 9-game homestand.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I just came from the dentist's office, so I apologize if I start, drooling down my cheek or whatever. But I got back late last night from a spring trip that, all in all, I think was pretty good. We went 2-1 up in Minneapolis in a really cool event at the U.S. Bank Stadium where the Vikings play. So Big Ten, Big 12-ish kind of challenge. Played very well against Kansas and beat them. Got beat 2-1 by a really good top 10 Notre Dame team, and then played very well again against the top 25 opponent in West Virginia. From there, went down to Greenville, South Carolina, got everybody warmed up for the basketball team coming into town here this weekend. But just again, the one of the best trips that we've always taken every year since I've been here. We'll continue to do that, playing in at Floor Field, home of the Greenville Drive, and played an undefeated Clemson team at the time on Wednesday night. Played well, got beat 4-2, and then walked off Cincinnati in a great game on Friday night. Played very well again on Saturday against Western Carolina, and then did not play very well yesterday and got beat by Kansas. But I think to go 2-1 over the last 2 weekends with a really tough midweek game in there against Clemson, very encouraged with where we're at, where our guys are. Seems like if we pitch it, we have a chance, and if we don't, it's going to be tough for us. And a couple of the games that we lost, and we've walked way too many guys, we've hit way too many guys. But when when we are in and around the strike zone on the mound, especially, I think we're really good. We're swinging the bat well and playing pretty good defense, all things considered, for this early in the year. So excited to get a 9-game homestand started this weekend with Houston Baptist coming into town. It's an exciting time around here. Congrats to Coach Izzo on the record, and then another tournament bid, and Coach Tucker obviously very excited to get spring practice going. So it's a fun time of year. So questions.
Jake, what's the difference between the way you played last week and the big things that hurt you at Abilene Christian? And did you anticipate some of these pitching control issues?
Well, the problem at Abilene, amongst many, we had postponements, and the travel was a complete disaster going down there. Not that it was an excuse, but we just didn't throw strikes at Abilene, and that made for a long weekend. And similar to probably yesterday, I think we walked 11 and hit 3 guys, and so that's tough. It's tough to win. So consistency it's been kind of a roller coaster, I think, a little bit on the mound. And like I said, when we pitch it, we're in the strike zone. We can beat anybody, I feel like, and but it was the 3 games at Abilene, and then yesterday's. Hopefully they're sort of an anomaly, I guess, in that we just didn't throw many strikes, and behind in the count all day long. When you're pitching from behind, you're going to get hurt a lot, and that's what happened. So we were back and forth for I think until about the 6th inning, and then they we got into the bullpen, and that didn't go well, and they kind of pulled away. But again, the one thing I will appreciate and love about this team is they continue to fight and scratch and claw and compete, and We had guys got on base in the 9th and, 4 doubles in a row maybe in the 8th, I think it was. And, they honestly didn't feel like they were out of the ballgame, regardless of what the score was. So we'll go compete with those guys anytime.
Coach, you mentioned the pitching. I want to talk a little bit about Nick Powers putting together some strong starts early. What have you really seen from him coming off that injury this season?
Well, yeah, I mean, going into the year, we weren't sure if we would have Nick at all because he tore his lat last year in the middle of the year, and typically that's very similar to a Tommy John type of recovery, being a full year. So, we took it slow with him. Rehab went great. Obviously, before that, surgery went very well, and he was well ahead of schedule, and we eased him along. But Nick really picked up where he left off. I mean, Abilene Christian was a tough day for him, but his first outing of the year, his third outing of the year, fourth outing of the year, it's been very similar to what it was last year. He doesn't throw 98 miles an hour, but he commands both sides of the plate. He throws 3 pitches for strikes at any time in the count, and he was really in full control. Which it's fun to watch. I mean, I think it's a great lesson in pitching for our guys. You don't have to throw 99 miles an hour to beat people. I mean, it's about really pitching at that point, and he put on a clinic. So we extended him probably as far as he's been extended within probably the last year, I guess, coming off of that injury, but he felt good, and he was coming off kind of a shorter pitch count in Minneapolis, so we felt good about it with an extra day of rest, and and he was really good. So we'll give him a full week of rest, again coming up this week, so he should be on more of a schedule coming into the Houston Baptist series.
Okay, I see that their manager is Lance Berkman.
Right.
I'm wondering the best major leaguer you've ever coached against that's come and brought a team in there.
Well, Mike Redmond was the manager for the Lugnuts, and his number of years ago, his very first game as a manager was a crosstown showdown, and we beat him. And the day after he got the job, I think it was with the Marlins, I made sure I called him up just to remind him that I'm 1-0 against a big league manager. So that's probably it. You don't see many. I think most pro guys usually stay on the pro side of it. There are a few, of course, that come back and coach in college baseball, but we have another mutual connection, I guess, with Houston Baptist. That's kind of how the series came about. Their pitching coach, Clayton Vanderlaan, was a freshman at Michigan State my first year here, and he's from the Houston area originally, and so we've kept in contact over the years. He got into coaching and was, I think, at Saginaw Valley for a year or two, and the move from there down to a Division III school in Houston, and then and I think Lance was his assistant there, and then when he got the job at Houston Baptist, it brought the rest of the staff over. So that's kind of how the series kind of came about. So.
Do you hope for some old-fashioned Midwest weather when a team from the South comes north in March, where it stings to hit, or would you rather just have something nice for your guys too?
Well, selfishly, yeah, I guess it doesn't bother me if it's really cold. I mean, we're used to playing in it probably more than they are. Looks like the temperatures are going to be probably warm enough this weekend. We've certainly played in colder, so I don't anticipate that being a factor. It is a great question because in the past, we brought Oregon in here right around the same time. A number of years ago, we brought Fresno State in here right around the same time. We had Arkansas scheduled to play here in the COVID year, early April. And to be honest with you, at that point, I was hoping for cold temperatures, not necessarily because it was an advantage for us, but I really, honestly, trying to get more of a spotlight on when we play and get more people asking the question, why are we playing college baseball in early March? You saw teams get snowed out this weekend. The Mid-American Conference had a conference series last weekend. I think the majority of those games weren't played because of weather. We made a big push in our conference over COVID to try to, do what we could to push the start date back to, say April 1st as an example. I think it just makes more sense to play in that kind of weather. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to play in, 30-degree weather and snow. So that was kind of the idea. The Oregon series a number of years ago really selfishly kind of worked out perfectly because we played on Friday. We walked them off Friday night, and then we had snow and cold the next 2 days and couldn't play. And, I think that opened up a lot of eyes across the country, but here we are. We're still doing what we're doing.
I noticed none of those teams have been back here.
They have not been back. No, no.
Yeah, other than that 3-game disaster at Abilene, you played really well against some decent competition. Is this team better than what you thought it might be?
Yeah, well, we didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know. I thought we would swing the bat, and there was just so many undefined roles on the mound because of playing no non-league games last year. Some transfers that came in, we really weren't sure what was going to happen on the mound, and so, I think offensively, probably where we thought we would be, maybe a little bit better. And then honestly, wasn't sure on the mound. And so, you looked at the season. I was talking with Coach Joseph this morning, and we're 7-7 right now. And you go back and you look at some of the games that we got beat, and we were close. We feel like, a pitch here or there. You could make a good case for us being 10-3 or 11-3, maybe 10-4. At the same time, going into the year, you could look at the schedule and say, this could be a tough go because of the schedule we played. And so, where we're at 7-7, and the way that we've played outside of those probably 4 games, very pleased with where we're at. Yeah.
I know you guys typically start the season on the road, but with what you went through last year with the fans, can you sense more excitement now from this group with the home opener coming up?
Yeah, guys are excited to play, obviously, at home, as always, but the fact that, there'll be people on campus, you combine I think we're hosting the high school, the next 2 weekends, the high school, semifinals and finals in basketball, so that kind of will hopefully create a buzz around campus. With the weather being decent, hopefully we get some great crowds out there, and that's we take a lot of pride in playing at home, and now that things have opened up a little bit more, it's even more exciting for us.
When you look at where the team is through 14 games, where are the areas that you'd say right now you're most pleased, and where are the areas you're like, we've got to get a heck of a lot better right now? Yeah, well, the consistency on the mound is where we need to really be better. I think throwing strikes early in the count for some guys, especially some of the guys coming out of the bullpen, that needs to really improve and improve quickly. We've hit for a little bit of power, probably more so than we did a year ago, and that's been a pleasant surprise. There are a couple guys that I think we need to get going there. At the same time, I'd like to have stolen a little bit, a few more bases. That's a big part of. It's always been a big part of what we've done, and so. But we do grind out at bats well. I think we probably still continue to do a better job with 2 strikes, and competing, not competing at the plate, but, fouling off good pitches and just trying to stay alive in at bats maybe a little bit longer. So offensively, there's always some things that you can think you need to be better at, and, but. Again, I think consistency-wise, especially with some of the arms that we've seen, again, very pleased where we're at. We've seen a lot of guys that have run it up there pretty good as far as velocity is concerned. Some outstanding sliders and breaking balls that we've seen, and I think we've handled it pretty good. So yeah, pleased with where we're at.
Jake, you guys usually obviously are on the road a lot this time of the year, but to have 9 straight home games, are you ready to hunker down and kind of get to business at home? I mean, how do you feel? Okay.
Yeah. Ready to go for sure. And I think guys like sleeping in their own beds. I think well, I don't know if my wife and daughter are ready to have me home or ready to send me back on the road. We'll see. But again, we take a lot of pride in playing at home. It's a special place, and we have obviously a rich history, I think, at Coves Field, McLean Stadium, and want to show it off to as many people as we possibly can. So it's a grind going on the road. You play your first 14 games for us on the road, and typically this next week, in a normal year we'd probably be on the road again, but we decided to roll the dice and see if we could open up at home, and so far so good. We'll see what happens. It's I understand we got about 4 or 5 inches of snow last Thursday, so you never say never until the first pitch is thrown. But yeah, guys are excited to play here.
So looking ahead to that Houston Baptist series, I know you guys just got back, but have you had a chance to really look at Houston Baptist, and what have you seen from them so far?
Yeah, we'll get going on that today. Really with playing, the unique thing about the spring trip, for us, we played 7 games but 6 different opponents, and so my assistants really have been grinding on scouting reports for a lot of different people. So to be able to do one team this week is probably a little bit more welcomed for them. I do know 2 weeks ago I think they went out to Sacramento State, and I think took 3 out of 4 from a very, very good Sacramento State team, and to go west to take that kind of trip, even from Houston, but to Sacramento, a couple time zones away, and what at that time was a top 25 team, to go in there and take 3 out of 4, you got to be doing something right. So we're going to have to play well, to win, and maybe the Houston Baptist name isn't what Rice or Houston or some of those other schools are, but this isn't football, this isn't basketball. I mean, you get a guy out there on the mound that's really throwing well, and you got to be ready to go. So it's going to be a very good challenge for us.
Anything else for the class?
All right, thank you. Go Green.